Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm Jack, joined by
Dominic Castillo.
All right, it is just the two of us here today. Gio, unfortunately, had something come up, so it's just the two of us today. Dom, how have you been?
I have been pretty good so far. Gio and I have both were able to get through and survive the Grammys day. It was pretty crazy. A lot of things have occurred since then, but on the day of, not gonna lie, I was pretty, how would you say, I guess, amazed by how the day went through, and seeing a bunch of like celebrities and from far and from near. It was interesting to see how would you call it? So many people in such a small, like, just in very tight spaces, if that makes sense. The entire arena was like renovated from top to bottom. Like they changed up carpets, they draped walls. It was pretty crazy. Not gonna lie, the day of the Grammys was one of the most insane days in terms of everybody's like working, everybody's moving. Like, there's no pauses. There's a constant flow of traffic of people like trying to get through. Like, there's people from like different arenas helping out as well. For me specifically, my role in helping out was being a personal assistant for a specific room. And basically what I did was just basically to just help out the clients. I also had a bartender there as well who was serving drinks. And basically what I did was just help the clients out, clean up, tidy up the room. If anybody needed something, I would give the server the information so I could run over to go get any beverages or food that they might have wanted, and then bring it back. Funny enough, the entire day where I was stationed at, no one ordered anything, so I just practically just stood there and did absolutely nothing, and I had a bit of a good view of the Grammys, watching from above, so it wasn't that bad. But I mean, there was no seats, so I just stayed standing for an entire 4 hours without like sitting down or taking a break. It sucked a bit, but I mean, it was kind of worth it. The Grammys day in and of itself, I mean, the event in and of itself was pretty cool. A bunch of cool celebrities.
Real quick,
still a bit angry at the selection. Oh, what?
I was gonna say, wait, save that because that's gonna be our main topic for today.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, so basically, that happened with that. Everybody was tired. Everybody was constantly walking. I think we worked for around 10 to 11 hours, or around 11 to 12 hours. But we made it. We survived. I came to work in the next day, Monday, for the Grammys loadout, basically just to clean up everything to prepare for the Lakers game, which was yesterday, which also history was made. Aside from that, I'm also finally getting my car resprayed, so it's gonna finally get a new coat of paint, get its scratches fixed up and all that stuff. I'm gonna fix up the rust myself, just so I guess I could get a know-how when it comes to fixing up rust, because there might be more future rust underneath the car, maybe at some point. So I might as well get, I guess, an understanding of how to fix it up, and as such. Other than that, everything else has been pretty PogChamp, bro. How have you been, Jack?
I've been doing pretty good. Just been doing a lot of writing, of course, as I've been, saying for the past couple of months. I've just been writing up some scripts for future episodes, getting ideas. What's it called? Waiting ever so patiently for the Super Bowl to arrive so that I can finally watch it. What else have I been doing? I gotta do my FAFSA soon. I'm planning on doing that today. I'm just trying to look into I can't remember if changes can be made after you submit it or not. So that's one thing I'm trying to look into, because I may need to make some changes with it, because there's something else that is taking up some time that I need to wait for.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've been doing pretty fine. The new season of Overwatch came out, and I've been trying that out. Even though we haven't played in a while, I've been trying it out because there was a bunch of changes they were making. I don't think we talked about it in the podcast, but they basically, if you want to say, admitted defeat, in the sense of they were like, all right, guys, we kind of realized that we messed up a lot of stuff, and all the stuff that the fans have been asking for really should have stayed in the game. So they were like, oh, I don't think they've done it yet, but I think it's in season 4. They're going to get rid of the map pools, because they just realized it's boring to make people play the same maps instead of having this rotation of, I don't know, like 20 something maps. I forget how many maps are in the game.
Right.
And then they made like a ton of hero changes, like Mercy got a huge nerf, Reinhardt and Ball got some buffs to them, but like at the same time they were trying to do counterbalance, where it's like, here's a nerf but also here's a buff to go with it. So like they made like a ton of changes, and then like the biggest change was that in open queue, when I originally saw it, me and my friends thought it was for all game modes, but when you play open queue, all tanks are reverted back to their like original health from like Overwatch 1, basically.
Oh, really?
Like, or I don't know if it's their original health, but their health gets a big decrease. Like Roadhog goes from having 700 to like 550. And the reason they did this was because they said, in open queue, the tanks aren't having to be like one tank. You can run multiple tanks, and so it doesn't make sense to have, all these high health tanks when the only reason they were given such high health was for a row queue where there's only one tank.
Yeah.
And so it plays very much like Overwatch 1 in the sense of like, my goodness, tanks get like shut down pretty easily. It's just like you could still pop off, like, oh, it's still popping off, but you have to play like real how do I want to put, like, real conservative in a sense, because like I was playing Winston and I went and got like a full health pack and got up to full health. I dove in, and when playing Winston and like Roku, you're easily able to just jump in, jump out, and last pretty long. I jumped in, and like within 3 seconds I was already at like 73 health and had to jump back out. So it's pretty chaotic playing open queue, but other than that, like, that's pretty much all I've been up to, as well as of course I've been listening to music. I'm a big guy I'm a big playlist guy. I love creating like different playlists for different scenarios, and I bring that up because that ties into our main topic of today, the Grammys. And Dom, so
yes,
normally I would say you and I don't really care about the Grammys, right?
Yeah, not so much.
Especially because one thing that we're going to get into with this video is the Grammys don't really have a good criteria, if you want to say. And I'll elaborate on that more. But so I for one didn't even know the Grammys was coming up until you brought it up, because you were going to be working it. And then I looked up the nominees. And so when the day came of the Grammys and the awards were given out and I saw the results, obviously I wasn't surprised, but I was annoyed at some of them, and like, it's not me like hating, but it's like, to me, I just felt there were like better options.
Yeah.
And getting right into it, because this is the biggest one we're gonna have to talk about. The album of the year went to Harry Styles, and a lot of people were upset by this. And now, you and I obviously have a bias here in that Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar was nominated, so that would be the easy choice for us to give. But to show just how much I like disagreed with the pick, if you want to say, and to kind of demonstrate that like I'm not just holding bias for one album, I went and listened to the other nominees so I can give a full unbiased opinion. I didn't get to all of them because what the award show happened on like Sunday night, right? Was it Sunday night or was it Friday or Monday
It was
night?
Sunday.
It was Sunday. Okay, yeah. So I didn't get to all of them. Like I didn't get to listen to the ABBA, Brandy Carlisle, and Coldplay one, and the Lizzo one. Or I don't think I forget which. Okay, I know for sure. Okay, I know for sure I've listened to the Kendrick one, obviously because we covered that one. But the main ones I listened to because when it came to this award, no one was really talking about the other ones. Not to be mean, but no one was really talking about the other ones. So I kind of listened to the ones that people had in the main contention. Like that were like these were the ones that I saw the most pop up when people were saying this should have won the award. So, for the first time in my life, because of the Grammys and all this controversy, to really give an unbiased opinion, I listened to the Adele album, the Beyonce album, the Bad Bunny album, and even the Harry Styles one. I put myself through that to listen to those albums. And the good thing that came out of it was that Bad Bunny album was actually pretty good. My issue with it when it dropped was, one, I didn't know much about Bad Bunny. My only information or knowledge on Bad Bunny is the fact that he showed up in WWE at one point, but that's all I knew about him. And then also the fact that he was just going crazy with his concerts, like selling out every like stadium that he went to, basically. But I was like, this album, when I saw it last year, I was like, this album is 23 songs long. It's about an hour and a half long. So that's the reason why I didn't listen to it for so long. But I will admit, I was sleeping. It's actually pretty good. The Adele one and the Beyonce one were to me, like it's just probably like not my type of music, but they weren't bad, in a way. Like the Adele album really covered a lot of good stuff on it, and I don't know too much about Beyonce, but I know a lot of people kind of said like she took a new direction with this album, and I could kind of recognize that, And I bring this up to my point to say, and again, people, it's not blind hating. Like, I gave all these albums a listen, and obviously it's just my opinion, and it's not like it has much weight in these awards. But after listening to those 5 albums that were in main contention, Adele, Kendrick, Bad Bunny, Beyonce, and Harry Styles, I am still baffled but not surprised at the fact that they gave the award to Harry Styles.
I agree 100%. I feel like the overall lineup was it was a good mix, right? I enjoyed this mix, a wide variety per se. However, and a huge however, I feel like the existence of Harry's House doesn't. How would you say it? It's. I want to call it a generic pop album that doesn't have, how would you call it, substance. A deep meaning to it.
Yeah, substance to it.
Exactly, substance. As compared to, I'm throwing in bias, but whatever. Compared to Kendrick's album, which has like deep truths, deep meanings, deep realities that people go through, and Harry's House is just. I'm just gonna call it TikTok bait because that was literally all it was.
Or like we said in our, like we said in our tier list of the top like 10 stream songs of all time, it's mall music. It's music you hear like at the mall or like in a department store or in a restaurant. That they're playing because they think it's the hip music nowadays.
Exactly. And so basically, yeah, if for not the existence of TikTok and that overuse of the song, I honestly don't know how. My bad. I feel like there could have been a difference in the selection, in the final selection of who got picked to be album of the year. Because I just feel like with Harry's House, it's just, how would you say, there is replayability, but there's no, as you mentioned, it's just basically music you can be listening to at the mall when you're going out shopping. But when it comes to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, there's, there's, how would you say, years in the making, if that makes sense. It's not, you can't quickly just make this up on the spot. You can't give it like a groovy tune. You can't just, I'm not sure how to explain it. Anyways, it is what it is. We can't do anything much about it. The rest of the lineup was pretty okay. Kendrick at least did get one award, and if I recall, what was it for the rap album, the best rap album of the year? It was given for Kendrick, and I was happy. I was happy. I heard him. I saw him. I heard him on the stage. I'm like, oh damn, it's him.
He also got the best rap performance for The Heart Part 5.
Oh yeah.
And the best rap song with The Heart Part 5 and the best rap album, like you mentioned, yeah. And it's just honestly, it's honestly kind of crazy how humble he is, because I don't know if you heard in his speech, he said he basically referred to himself as the best underground artist. And it's like, my guy, no offense, but you haven't been underground since like 2013 with Good Kid, Mad City, But yeah, he still thinks himself humbly in the way of like, he considers himself underground because, if you want to say, it's like, I don't even know, because rap is like now considered one of the biggest genres, I guess, since it's not one of the most commercially friendly genres, I guess you'd say. That's why he says he's, he considers himself like one of the greatest underground artists, But yeah, it was good to see him walk away with at least one. People were also happy to see Steve Lacy walk away with at least one award. With I think he walked away with something like in the I think it's like an R&B category, but like I think they call it like progressive R&B, like pushing the genre forward. Like that's the criteria for the award, and they gave it to him for his Gemini Rights album. So I saw a lot of people were happy with that. I don't know too much about like the other genres. I know Beyonce walked away with a couple awards, so much so that she broke the record, I think, for like having the most Grammys of all time. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if it was like just definitive most Grammys of all time or just most Grammys for a female artist. I don't know which one in particular was it. But what's it called? Yeah, so diving into like the sort of Grammys talk. Obviously, like we said, we're kind of here covering it because you worked it, and also because I think there's a greater discussion to be had in that the criteria of the Grammys is very confusing in a sense, and it's the same for almost any award given out, because obviously there's going to be bias, it's going to be subjective, there's never going to be able to have some type of objective view on what is, the best, in the sports world. When they vote on, the best players, the criteria changes all the time, like the example I'll give to you, Dom, sometimes in football, the award is given out sometimes based off of the stats a player puts up that season, but then another season it's about how this guy was carrying his team and they barely made the playoffs because of him, and it was because of like the story that this guy gets the award. And then other times it's, another reason, and it's just like there's never a definitive criteria to it, like it's always ever changing. And I feel like the same applies here for the Grammys, where it's like, what is the criteria for album of the year? Are you giving it to the best selling album, are you giving it to the album with, like the best content in a sense? And then again, how do you decide what has the best content? Are you giving it to the album that had the most impact that year? The most talked about album, like through all metrics of like social media and video views and streaming numbers and all that. Like they don't give this type of a definitive to it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because like with Harry's House, it's like, what are we giving it this award for based off what metrics? And I've heard people like claim like, because of its like popularity and like, I guess the like streaming numbers. But like, if we're going by that, Bad Bunny's record was on the billboards, I think, for like 13 weeks. I want to say like it was at number 1, but I forget what the talk was about it, but like basically like it was a big album, and this man was on a actual like world tour selling out stadiums. Yeah, it spent 13 weeks atop the charts and topped the Billboard 200 year-end chart as the best performing album of the year, the first Spanish language album to do so. It was also the first album by a Latin artist to reach 10 billion streams on Spotify.
10 billion. Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing I'm saying. It's like, how do you have an album like this that meets the criteria of being the best selling, having the most impact, in the fact that he was number 1 for 13 weeks. He was going on these stadium tours, selling out, in these big old arenas. You saw people were paying absurd prices for tickets just to go to this man's show,
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you have an album like that, but you don't give it the award for album of the year, even though we're supposed to believe you gave it to Harry's House because it was, the most popular album of the year? I don't think it is when you have an album like this,
Exactly. Honestly, I don't know. If I recall, for this year's Grammys, they completely changed up, like the way they I guess measure the popularity and who will win and who will lose. Like the chairman people who like pick on the songs have changed up in such a sense. But I feel like it's still too random per se, because the song of the year was given to Bonnie Wright for Just Like That, which is a country song. And I don't want to be mean, but not once during the year 2022 have I heard this song at all. Like I never heard it like top any billboards. I've never heard it in the radio. I've never heard it like pop up in my my Apple Music like recommendations. Like to try out new different genres. Not once, and yet it lands the song of the year. Even if I remember looking at the screen, and once they selected Just Like That for Song of the Year, I think the artist was like surprised because they didn't think they would win, and they just won. Like, you're telling me this country song? I mean, as much as I hate Harry Styles, it won over as it was. And it's like, or Lizzo, or Jay-Z, or Steve Lacy with the increase. I would assume it's streamed with the TikToks, or Kendrick Lamar's. Have you ever heard this song once in your life? Yeah.
No, and to kind of demonstrate, just how good the field was, like you mentioned, Steve Lacy with Bad Habit, Beyonce had one of her songs on there with Break My Soul, Kendrick was up there again with The Heart Part 5, you mentioned Jay-Z with that song with DJ Khaled, God Did, Adele was on there, Harry Styles, Taylor Swift was on there. If I was going to think anyone was winning an award, I would have thought Taylor Swift would have won it, Lizzo was up there, and then, oh my gosh, Tom, can we believe the fact that ABCDEFU song got nominated for a Grammy?
I don't know. What is this song? Is it a TikTok?
Yeah, it's basically like a TikTok song if you want to say, but we're getting songs like that nominated for Grammys over others, So I'm not too mad at this, even though, yeah, like you said, I haven't ever heard this song. And apparently, the reasoning behind it is, from what I've heard, this award is different from the record of the year, which was won by Lizzo. This one apparently is more about like the songwriting element of that. And again, I don't want to show my bias, but if we're talking about the songwriting element, how does Kendrick Lamar not get it with The Heart Part 5?
I'm saying, man.
Like the stuff he talks about on his album and the stuff he talked about on The Heart Part 5, you know, it's like, how does someone not get it for that, you know? And like,
exactly.
You know, going back to like the Album of the Year award, like you were saying at the beginning, Kendrick's album touched on so many different things, you know, generational trauma, you know, stuff that, you know, all like in a sense, stuff that a lot of the minority groups don't want to talk about, but mainly, you know, the African American community, like stuff that, you know, we as minorities and more prominently probably in the African American community aren't willing to talk about, you know, like this man talked about, you know, having mother and father issues, you know, and having to confront the fact that he had those issues and they were leading to issues and trauma in his life. Honestly, I don't know to this day, but like I've seen people like review the album, and so like some people look at it as also like him and his wife are separated now. I don't know. You know, like that's just kind of the feeling some people got from the album, you know, in some songs, but I don't know for sure. I don't know, like it seems I don't know here, you know? Like I don't know what's going on in that situation. I don't want to speak on a situation I don't know about, but you know, it covers issue like within, you know, we can say definitely for sure it covers issue within relationships, you know? Like we saw with songs like what is it? What was the song called, Dom? We Fight Together or something like that? What is it?
We Cry Together.
We Cry Together. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, songs like that where it's like it's a unique take on demonstrating, you know, relationship issues, and it had a real feeling to it, you know, like a natural feeling to it. Like that didn't feel like we were listening to like a song. That felt like an actual like argument happening like in the middle of a recording that they were just like, you know what, let's keep it, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously some parts were exaggerated, but again, I feel like our bias is showing here. But again, things are always going to be subjective, you know, and like I said, to make sure that it wasn't just me being fully biased, I gave all the other records a shot, and I still don't think, in my personal opinion, Harry really deserved to get this award, just because, to me, there was better options around it. And then going back to the song of the year, like you were saying, I've never heard this song. I'm sure Bonnie Raitt probably has some great songs, and I guarantee she's probably like an award-winning artist. I wouldn't be surprised if she has, you know, like a bunch of Grammy wins, you know, and even nominations. But you know, I'm not too mad at the pick because it could have been worse with some of the other ones. But at the same time, I can understand people's confusion with the pick given such a stacked field, you know. And then again, it brings to the point, what are our criterias here, you know? And who are the ones evaluating and deciding these awards, you know?
Yeah.
Like who is determined to have the credentials and not have the credentials, you know? And, you know, I don't want to be the guy that, you know, brings race into something, but how diverse is the committee, you know? Because music is obviously for everyone, but there's obviously still going to be some people who have their biases out there, you know? Like when we're having people, like the people who decide these awards, in my opinion, they need to be a diverse group that is willing to listen to other genres of music, you know?
True.
Because you don't want a situation where there's a really great album out there, but it doesn't get votes because most of the committee doesn't like the genre that it comes from, you know? Like if we were to get a really great rock album next year, or like this year, and it gets nominated next year, but the people on the committee hate rock music, you know? I think that's kind of unfair to have someone like that on your committee, you know, who, you know, has disdain for a certain genre. Like, it's one thing if they listen to the album and they just didn't enjoy it as much as others, but it's another thing if they don't even want to give the album a listen or give it consideration because, oh, it's a rock album, it's a rap album, it's this type of album, you know?
Right.
So it's like, I wonder just who are the people deciding, because it's also like, how can we tell, you know, who's being genuine with their votes, you know? And obviously, at the end of the day, you and I could care less because this is just another award show that doesn't hold any weight to us, you know? Like, I'm not gonna stop listening to an artist because they don't have all these Grammy wins, you know, or because, you know, I'm not gonna go out of my way to listen to an artist just because they have all these Grammy wins, you know?
Right.
And I'm not gonna force myself to enjoy their music just because, you know, all these other people love them, and I'm not gonna force myself to love an album just because it got album of the year at the Grammys. Like, no, at the end of the day, I'm gonna enjoy what I enjoy. But I just think, you know, in some matters, you know, we really should there really should be like some type of award out there that we genuinely care about, you know, like with the sports leagues, you know, it's like the MVP awards are always like, you know, they matter at the end of the year. Like, I don't think we've reached a point where people are like, you know, who cares who gets that award? Like, no, people are always trying to get the MVP award, you know?
Right.
And I just feel like, you know, we should be rewarding a lot of these artists for their genuine work, you know, and actually feel like it's fair, you know? Because another thing about the Grammys that we forgot to mention, you know, that it's the ultimate truth when it comes to the Grammys. At the end of the day, sometimes it's not even about who had the best record and, you know, who was critically acclaimed and all that, who sold the most albums. Sometimes it's just as simple as who bought the thing, you know?
Right.
Because we've heard it in the past that people sometimes pay for Grammy wins, you know? And another thing, too, is sometimes you won't even get consideration if you, in a sense, screw over the Grammys. And by that, I mean The Weeknd, for example. Dom, did you notice? No nominations at all for Don FM.
Oh, right.
Do you want to know why?
Why was that?
Back when he dropped After Hours, he wanted to do... You remember he did that performance, you know, on the rooftop during New Year's, and then he did the Super Bowl performance?
Yeah.
The Grammys told him that they wanted an exclusive sort of deal with him where he performed at the Grammys, meaning he didn't do that New Year's performance and he didn't do that Super Bowl performance. And because he told them no, he wasn't going to do that, they didn't take any nominations from him.
That's crazy, yo.
And in return, you know, when it blew up in the news and people were giving, you know, the Grammys obviously, you know, giving them hate for that, they were like, oh, okay, you know, he can submit. And he was like, no, you can, you know, go to hell, basically, you know. You wanted to screw me out of opportunities as an artist, you know, performing at the Super Bowl, doing all these big performances for my album, and you only now want to give my album consideration after all the flack you're catching for it? No. You know, so The Weeknd has basically boycotted the Grammy, saying, you know, I'm not gonna play your games, you know. So it's like you see artists like that, you know, it's like when you see stuff like that happen, and you remember last year Drake went up and literally called them out on stage, and they had to cut his mic. You know, he was basically like telling artists that the Grammys don't matter, and it's like you see stuff like that happens, and it's like you wish there was a better award, you know.
Yeah.
And one thing real quickly, sorry for talking so much. Another thing I want to bring up too, that I'm just kind of confused on, is some albums don't get nominated because they don't fit the timeline I've heard. Like, you have to drop within a certain amount of period to be considered, and if not, you can submit for nomination next year. But this is supposed to be the album of the year, the record of the year from 2022. Adele's 30 was in the album of the year, and that came out in 2021. Now, maybe it's because it dropped like late, like November 19, 2021, so that's probably why it wasn't able to be considered for 2020, but I just find that kind of weird, that some albums could be named the record of the year, the album of the year, and they might not even be from that year,
Yeah.
Like, hold on, let me look up this one. Because I see this in the record of the year nomination. I don't know when it came out. It came out October 1st, 2021. Woman by Doja Cat was nominated for record of the year. And so, again, I'm just kind of confused with our criteria here, I don't know. It would feel weird that something wins record of the year, album of the year, when it wasn't even from that year,
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's kind of just all I wanted to say about the Grammys. What about you, Dom?
Okay, so I agree. There is a bit of the corruptions within the Grammys. Well, not corruption. That's just over exaggerating. But there is no clear, concise way to measure, because at the end of the day, all music is subjective, right? I don't know if they objectively look at numbers to see which is the best of the best in terms of the music. But I feel like that's how it should be, right? I feel like they should just look at precise numbers and see which is literally depending on the charts, global charts, what is the best rap song, what is the best pop song, what is literally the best song in the world. But I don't know how I just don't know how they calculate it, because I mean, as much as I dislike Steve Lacy and the song that he's made, I'm pretty sure that would have gotten number one, maybe because TikTok boosted it entirely, and or Harry's House, and as it was, or Beyonce or Kendrick, but still, or especially Bad Bunny. I'm pretty sure Bad Bunny would have absolutely annihilated those numbers, considering his popularity throughout the world. But I don't know, but no, yeah. Personally, I don't know. I mean, for me, being an outsider and just working at the Grammys, it was kind of I would say annoying just to see this all go down, and people just regardless of how Drake pointed it out. Now it was just bad. Not important. It was bad in terms of it being regarded in high authority in terms of, if you get a Grammy, you are presented as now an artist that has recognition, when you don't really need a Grammy, to make good music or to be recognized as a good artist. You're just shown as this person. Okay, you have a practically a worthless award that that doesn't do anything. It's just an award. Sure, it's recognition, but that's literally it. That's literally all it falls down to. And I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of other artists that they didn't throw in their albums, that they didn't throw in their, submissions, because I'm pretty sure Silk Sonic with Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak were gonna throw in their album or something like that. They were, but they just simply said they just didn't want to, because they knew they were gonna win regardless. So they already have at least one Grammy, so they weren't gonna go try for another one because they already know they have one.
Yeah, and I also heard that Bruno is kind of similar to The Weeknd, where he's not messing with the Grammys, he's kind of boycotting them in a sense. And when it comes to again, let's scroll down a bit. Sorry, I'm on the website trying to get to it quickly, but the rap album of the year, and again, that's kind of a controversy in itself. Some people feel like they've created some of these separate genres because they know they're never going to get, the big one of album of the year, So, they created rap album of the year because they're never going to give it to a rap album. Where, people were saying, sadly, as big as Bad Bunny's album is, they weren't never going to give it to an album that was primarily in another language, But look at the rap album categories. You had Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar. It's Almost Dry by Pusha T. Come Home, The Kids Miss You by Jack Harlow. I Never Liked You by Future, and God Did by DJ Khaled. Now, all respect to, the candidates and even Kendrick Lamar, but I think we can both say there's a couple names missing there, right, Dom?
Mm-hmm.
Where's Denzel Curry? Where's Jid? Where's there was a ton of great like albums that dropped last year. Where's Joey Badass's 2000 album? There's a ton of albums missing. And apparently a lot of those guys just didn't bother nominating because they knew, the Grammys will never give us our respect,
Right.
And that's why, it kind of annoyed me a bit when Harry Styles won the award. And I understand, I know people are going to get mad at this for me bringing this up, but, I understand what he meant by it, but he goes up there and he's like, oh, people like me were never supposed to win this award. People like you win that award every year, basically, Other people from their other genres would kill to get that recognition, but they're not given that recognition, How many times has Kendrick Lamar been snubbed, To Pimp a Butterfly, lost to Taylor Swift. Good Kid, Mad City, lost to Macklemore. You got these guys not even wanting to submit their great works because they know it's never going to be taken into consideration for these awards, and that's why I brought up, the whole thing of, what's the diversity looking like in the committee, because I'm sorry to say, but, there's going to be some slight racism in the fact of, like, there's going to be people who aren't willing to give these guys the respect because of the genre that they're in,
Yeah.
And it's sad, that there's a lot of great artists out there, but they're never going to be given the respect, Kendrick, Drake are probably like the exceptions because of just how big they've blown up. But like, when has Drake gotten the most, respect for it? When he turned more towards a commercially friendly sound, But it's like, is Denzel Curry gonna get respect for his great album? No, not at an award like the Grammys, And it just kind of annoys me that Harry Styles goes up there and says that. And again, I understand it. He's talking about the fact that, like, he came from a small town, that, doesn't see people, like, rise to stardom, if you want to say. But, like, I don't know. In my opinion, it comes off as, people just wanting to play the victim, in a sense,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It feels like too many people now are constantly trying to find, like, a struggle to, like, present from their lives, And that's not me trying to tell people that they can't have their struggles, but it's just like, some people take the struggle and do what they can with it, and other people just constantly bring it up as a way to play victim, and get pity out of it, And maybe that's a bit harsh for me. I'm sorry if it is, but, like, that's just the way it comes off to me, as someone who has had his own struggles in life, but has kept most of it private and just made the most of my situation,
Yeah.
Sorry for speaking so long, Don, but we have about 45 seconds. Any final thoughts from you?
Nothing much else. Grammys is a scam. It's a scam. LeBron also did the thing yesterday.
He did.
He did. I was there.
We're about to start the Rule 34's podcast edition of the Grammys, where we'll actually give respect to a lot of these artists,
Yeah.
And then probably still end up snubbing someone by accident. Because music is very subjective, and it's very tough. But the last thing I'll say is the Bad Bunny deserved album of the year. And with that being said, I'm Jack, joined by
Dominic Castillo.
Thank you all for joining for another episode. And as always, if it exists, we have an opinion on it. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next episode.